Hello there everyone, the Jedi Brick here. Today I'm going to be showing you guys my upgrades and mods to the 2017 Rebel U-Wing fighter. I bought this set used from Orlando Brick Co. a few months ago, and after watching Andor and rewatching Rogue One, I really wanted to upgrade this ship, make it a bit more accurate, and just improve mostly the interior to represent more what we see in the show and in the movies. So I'll be walking you guys through everything that I did to upgrade the ship and kind of explaining how I did all that stuff. So let's get right into the build. So I'll start off just giving you guys like a brief overview of the exterior and just the outside of the ship. I was really inspired by the new model that came out like a month ago or something for the Andor series. I really liked how flat and studless it was on especially the wings, so I really tried to replicate that here, where I removed some of the paneling and I just had some tiles there and the CMF stands in white, really just to make it look smoother and a bit more clean. I like the way that that turned out. I think that looks really good. And then I also just added some more tiles here just to smooth it out a little bit. The original model had a lot of studs on the wings and everything. I just wasn't a huge fan of that, so I did go ahead and I changed that up. Moving back here to the wings, one thing that I did, two of the things I did actually, is I extended the length by one of these cylinder pieces. I wanted to use white, but I didn't have any other ones in white, so I went with a gray one, and I think it works pretty well. I would like to have one of these in the white color, but gray is all I had. So I did that for all four of the wings, so they are just a little bit longer, and I think that makes them a bit more accurate to the movie. And the other thing I did for the wings back here is I changed the engine color. In the original set, they used these translucent orange pieces, and I wasn't really pleased with how those looked. In the show, they are blue thrusting like lights, so I went ahead and I used these dish pieces in translucent blue. I think that gets the color a lot better than the original set, so that's what I went with. Next we'll talk about the cockpit. I think that's all the exterior changes that I made. I actually forgot to mention two. So one of them is also with the wings and how they open up. I kept the same like structure and everything the same. The thing I did change though on the inside was the clips. At least on my model, opening the wings was really hard. They would get stuck and they would just really be a struggle to open sometimes, and I wanted them to open easier. So what I did is I kept that ball joint right in there. And what I did on this side is I changed out the clip thing with these two right here. So when that closes, the ball joint just kind of goes in between those two clips. And in the original set, it's just one of the other connectors that really just snaps onto the ball. And this way, it's not as strong as a connection, but it is still very sturdy. It's not going to go anywhere. I can hold it by its wing, and it's not going to open up unless I actually want it to. It just makes it a little bit looser than what was on the original ship, so those can open up just as well as the original one. And then the other change I made for the exterior for here is I moved the cockpit up about 4 studs, I think. So what I did here is I just added a 2x4 with some grill pieces right there. I moved this whole section up 4 studs, and that was just to give the cockpit a little bit more room. And I think it is a little bit closer to the nose of the ship in the movie anyway, so I wanted to replicate that. Yeah, I think that's all I changed there. I just added some grill pieces right there. So now let's talk about the interior. I'm going to do my best to show you guys all the angles and everything, because I really think I did a great job with this. This took me about 2 weeks to figure out how I wanted to do this. I was doing a lot of experimenting, what I wanted to do. I really wanted to do 2 minifigures to fit in the cockpit. I tried really just a ton of different ways to do it, and there really wasn't any way that I was really satisfied with the way it looked, and having the cockpit be able to close and just look right with the minifigures in there. So I did just settle for having the one minifigure in there. The way you can open this cockpit is by lifting it up. You can also use the main feature from the set, push that back, and the cockpit opens up automatically. I just put a Rebel U-Wing pilot in there, nothing super special. The seat does come off with him sometimes, so I'll just snap that back on there. The connection isn't the best. It's only connected by, I think, 2 studs. But in there, that is the cockpit, the seating area. Nothing super crazy. It's just 2 control panels on the side with a bracket thing right there just to give him a little bit of something to rest on. And that's it for the cockpit. Like I said, I really wanted to make it longer, have two people in there, but I really couldn't find a way to do it that I liked. And also, the reason I went with this is if I can move this set around, give you guys the right angle to look in there. I'm gonna take that windscreen off. You can see the bottom of the ship through the second window that's there, and that is something I really wanted to include in the set, having the rebel be able to look down into the window and see what's below. I think that was really cool, and that was the only way I could integrate that feature. I couldn't do that with having two seats, so you can see through the bottom window there, you could see where the pilot would sit. So I'm really proud of that. I think that turned out really well. If I lift it up, you guys can get a better angle and see what I was talking about, how you can just see the pilot in there. I think that looks really cool. And that's one of my favorite things about the U-Wing in-universe, that giant window on the bottom. So I really wanted to have that represented in the set, because in the original one, you couldn't really see out of this bottom window. It was really just kind of its own thing. So I feel like having that visible and actually more accurate to the movie is really, really cool for this mod. And now on to the doors and the inside of the troop carrying area. This is what I took the longest to build. I really did not know how I wanted to do the doors. I had a lot of issues with how I wanted to do it and everything. It was a big struggle, but I am really satisfied with what I figured out how to do. Starting off with the overall construction of the door, if I take that off, it is primarily brick built. I was really inspired by the new version of the U-Wing as well for this part, and I saw some great builds online of people modifying that one, and they use this really cool window technique where they use one of these 2x4 plates with the studs on one end, and they use one of these window pieces and they put it on the side, and that is super cool. That way you actually have the window looking into the interior. I think that is so cool. And in the original version of this set, it was just pretty much just two panels and with the stickers on them, and I really like the brick built one rather than just having the stickers. So here I have just a yellow stripe like on the original one and how it's seen in the show. I have some cheese slopes just to make a smoother transition. I think that looks really nice. I have this black bar right here just to help open up the door. And then if I open that up, it just slides over on this one hinge, which is the same way it works in the original set. If I move that out of the way, you can get a view of the interior, and it is very spacious. I took out the clip thing where you would have like the miniguns or whatever, and I also took out one of the walls back there. So you would now have, I believe it's 9 like length in studs to put minifigures, and I really like giving it the extra space. I think that is really cool. Having a troop carrier actually hold troops is very important. So I'm pretty satisfied with the way that turned out. It is still very strong. I wanted to make sure this still had a lot of structural integrity and it could still, be played around with without breaking, and it still can do that, which is great. If I take the minifigures out here, we got Luthen, we've got K2SO, who can stand up all the way, which is really cool. We've got Andor back there. If I show you guys, if I zoom in right there, this is where the window is connected. It's kind of the same method with as it was in the original set, but I turned that Technic beam that was there into this little ladder. So instead of it just being an ugly Technic beam, I made it into a ladder, so it looks like you can take a minifigure and they can climb up and get into the cockpit. I think that is really cool. I think that is a good use of that space that really had to be there. I needed to do something with it. I needed to have the construction for that front window, and I think that's a good way to integrate it in there without it standing out too much. If I move over to the back side here, I really did not know what to do with this wall, so I decided just to put some lights and like a control panel on there. Kind of like how they have like that communication unit inside the ship. I wasn't really sure what to put there, but I knew I wanted to have something more than just a gray wall. So I have like some buttons and tiles in there, and I also used a bunch of these blue cylinder pieces. If I zoom in, you guys can probably see those. They're not really supposed to represent anything from the show. I just thought it added a bit more detail, like it could be power to the ship or like the hyperdrive or something. I don't know. It could be whatever you want it to be. I think just having a bit of color makes it stand out and just look a bit better than what it looked like before. And one of the final things I want to talk about is one of my door solutions. So When I was first building this, I was not sure how I wanted to have the doors built. I tried a bunch of things. I kept them the way they were in the original set. I tried like a whole sliding door with like Technic. That the reason I didn't do that is because you lost a lot of the standing room inside. You could only use the main four studs right there, and I really did not want that. I wanted to keep as much space inside as possible. So what I came up with is this main sliding door, which is very much the same as the original one, and then I have this cylinder kind of. I'm not sure what the official name is. It's the 1x2 like kind of cylinder round plate here, and that when the door closes it kind of locks it in place, because without that piece there, it's just kind of resting in place, and if you move it, like it flops around and everything. If you're playing with it, the door opens on its own, and I hated that about it. So that's what I came up with. I think that is a great solution to that issue that I was having, so I'm very proud of the way that turned out. One more thing I should mention about the construction of the ship. The panel just fell off. I have a bunch of these jumper plates on the bottom there, and the reason for that was, one, to keep the door kind of in place when I was having those main connection issues, and the other reason I have those there is just because it gives a little bit of a better transition from the ship to the ground. So when it's landing and it's on the floor or the table there, you just have a little bit of a better transition from the ship, and I think that looks really cool. You could have like the figure standing right on the edge or something. I think that is really cool. And then underneath those, to keep them all in place, I just have a bunch of the I'm not really sure what to call these, like the pieces they put underneath a lot of the ships to make them look like they're hovering and everything, and that's to keep it from not falling apart and almost give it like it's flying. So I think that was a really good idea that I had. But yeah, that's the ship. So that is my upgraded version of the Rebel U-Wing from 2017. Like I said, a big inspiration behind this was the new version of the U-Wing that came out for the Andor series, and I really wanted to replicate a lot of that, the smoothness of the exterior, and I think I did a really good job replicating that here with my custom build. Yeah, but let me know what you guys think about this set in the comments down below, if you think I should add or change anything else to the set. I am really happy with the way this came out. It took me a lot of different trial and error of things I wanted to do, especially with the doors and the interior, like finding something that I was satisfied with, that was accurate-ish to the show, especially with the cockpit. I am very pleased with the way the cockpit turned out. I like how I came up with that. But yeah, that is going to do it for today's video. Like I said, let me know what you guys think about this in the comments down below. If you have any questions about the build, feel free to ask as well. If there's enough demand for it, I would consider making, like a more instructional video of how I did things. If there was an interest in that, I could do that. But yeah, hope you guys are having a great day. Watch Andor Season 2, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye.